What's up, everyone? It's your girl Shay here. Welcome to my channel. If you are new, welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. And yeah, as you can see from today's video, I'm talking about Fanime, which I feel like I talk about Fanime every single year around this time because that's typically when Fanime usually happens, and I always like to give a review or my experience in going to Fanime. So I did one last year for 2023, so of course I did one for 2024, and I have thoughts. So pretty much Fanime, where I live, happens pretty much every year on Memorial Weekend. So it usually starts on that Friday is day one, and then it ends on Monday, that following Monday, pretty much during Memorial Weekend because everyone's off on that Monday. So it's from Friday through Monday, so a total of 4 days. So my husband and I went to Fanime again this year, and we think that for the next year when we go, hopefully we probably will only go for 1 day as opposed to staying for the entire weekend as we have for many years, pretty much for the past few years, besides during the whole COVID and pandemic situation. We obviously didn't go during then because it wasn't happening, but the years before that we used to pretty much go to Fanime almost every year, and we would stay for the entirety of the convention pretty much. But over the past few years, we've kind of noticed that things have kind of gone a little bit downhill when it comes to Fanime. And not so much as like, you know, anyone being rude or anything else like that. Like, the people there are still super amazing. They're still super nice. It's just kind of gone down in popularity, and we feel like there's probably a few reasons why. And also for us, as we've gotten older, we're looking at things from a different lens now, and it's just not making it as worthwhile. Now, granted, that's for this convention. That doesn't mean the same for other conventions that we've either never attended or have only gone to once or twice. Let me preface that as well. As far as one of the first things that I would say that I kind of pissed me off, but this wasn't really anything with the convention, but definitely with the people there, was parking. Now, where the convention is actually held at, it's held at a convention center, and there's a lot of parking structures around there, but the main one that's connected to the convention center is the one where we usually park at. And when I tell you, it's not even that there wasn't a lot of parking spaces. There was quite a few that were open, and this was during the time that graduation was happening also. So you had people coming to the convention. We went on a Thursday because we wanted to pick up our badges, which was considered day zero. So we go Thursday, day zero, to pick up our badges, get settled into our hotel room, and because of graduation going on, there's a little bit of traffic and a lot of people trying to find parking. But when we get in the parking garage, people who had smaller vehicles were taking up multiple parking spaces. Either these people didn't know how to park or wanted to park so badly, so deliberately, to make sure people didn't park next to them. I know that that is a tactic that some people do, and I know that that can actually cause some people to get like parking tickets because of them doing this, because it looks like they're taking up multiple spaces. But the amount of people we saw that were doing this or had done this, again, not saying it was deliberately, but it was frustrating. And I wasn't even driving. My husband was driving. I was like a passenger princess pretty much. But I was seeing the amount of parking spaces that we could have parked in, but because of people's tires being over the line, halfway over the line, them parking crooked, we couldn't park there. So that was frustrating. But again, not the convention's fault. This was purely the fault of the people that were parking. Another thing that we kind of noticed is just that the amount of con goers there had definitely dwindled. Now, because we've gone for several years, we've seen where there have been huge crowds of people attending this convention, especially because it's a holiday weekend. A lot of kids are getting out of school now, so a lot of people are going. The day that we picked up our badges, it was such a quick process, which we loved, because for the other years before that, it did take us a lot longer to get our badges. We kind of called it line con, but in this aspect, it was actually super quick and easy. We were expecting to stand in line for at least a good 30 minutes to an hour to try and get our badges, because the year before that, we actually also had to stand in line for a very long time. But this time, we literally just walked up, scanned our code that we got in our email because of our purchase, and then got our badge once we showed our ID and proof of pretty much who we were. And we were in and out of there in like 5 to 10 minutes. I will also chalk this up to the fact that this year they were a lot more lax when it came to COVID restrictions. In the previous years, you had to show proof of you being vaccinated, as well as obviously wearing a mask. This year, masks were optional but recommended. So if you wanted to wear a mask, you could. If you didn't, you didn't have to. And then they weren't checking to see like vaccination status at this point. So that also could have sped up the process as well. But last year, it was completely crazy. Like, line was wrapped around the block trying to get your badge. And this year, it was just walk in, do it, super, super easy. So that was one thing that we noticed, is just that it was dwindling so much with the amount of people. And so where our hotel room we faced the convention center, so we could see the amount of people coming and going out of the convention center every single day, and there just wasn't that many people. It just wasn't a huge crowd. The biggest crowd that we saw was for when the dealers hall opened, and because of the fact on day one the dealers hall actually opened so much later than when we were used to. So on day one, we're typically used to the dealers hall opening probably like 10 a.m. But when we arrived on Thursday and we were looking through the pamphlet, giving us the times of when things open, when things close, I noticed the dealers hall for day one didn't open until 2 o'clock. And I was surprised. It was open from like 2 to 8. Granted, yes, it's the first day, but again, that's so much later than what we're used to. So my husband and I were actually pretty shocked. And my husband's response was kind of like, this kind of shows that it's maybe going a little bit down in popularity, and because they're opening so much later. And yes, there was a huge crowd when they opened, but it wasn't as crazy. And I'll be honest, I was kind of worried about this just because I was still having to work on that Friday. I worked half a day, but because they didn't open until 2 for the dealers hall, I feel like I didn't really miss out on much. Another thing is the pricing. The pricing for tickets were so expensive. I was used to Fanime pretty much being like $65 to $75 per ticket, even as you got closer to the convention. My husband and I, for 2 tickets, spent a total of $210 for 2 tickets. That was so much more expensive. Now, we did buy our tickets a little bit later than like maybe you should, but not super late. So we bought our tickets probably in like March, and March or April, we bought our tickets. And granted, the convention is in May, but usually even around that time, tickets are pretty inexpensive, which is what makes it worth it so much to go, is because of the simple fact that it's for 4 days. And then if you look at the price of the ticket for all 4 days, it's really not that bad. But this time we were like, that's a little bit more expensive than what we've had to pay previous years. Now, granted, inflation has definitely gone up, so that's probably why they also went up in price. And for a period of time, the convention was getting extremely popular, so they could justify going up in price. So that could be why too. I don't know. There's lots of different reasons, but when I saw how much we paid for 2 tickets, I was thoroughly shocked. Sorry, my nose keeps running. Must be allergies. Anyway, besides that, the next other thing that for me was kind of like showed that we kind of won't be going for multiple days is because there were the lack of things for us to do at the convention. And this isn't to say they didn't have a lot. They did. It just wasn't anything interesting for us to particularly do. So I do enjoy going to panels at conventions, but this year the panels that they had was nothing that I really wanted to watch or anything that I wanted to sit through. A lot of the conventions were also titles that I've heard before and continue to be repeated at this convention. So one example is like anime unpopular opinions, which I've seen done several years beforehand, and while that could be a pretty popular topic or a popular panel to go to, it's not really something that I'm really interested in going to see or listen to, because I feel like a lot of people are going to have the same unpopular opinions. That's just me. That's just what I think. But granted, I didn't go. So maybe someone did have some new unpopular opinions that I've never heard before. Another example that I can give is 5th Gen isn't really Pokemon, which I've seen before in previous conventions also at this same convention, the same topic. So I was like, you can only rehash this topic so many times. Yes, it's a very funny topic and something fun to discuss, but it's been done before. And then they don't have a lot of guests that I'm interested in seeing, or seeing a panel of them talking. So it really wasn't much else to do. My husband and I did go and visit the manga lounge, which was fun. It was fun to just sit there and read manga and with a whole bunch of people basically. But besides that, we mostly ventured in the dealer's hall and the artist alley, which that's another thing. So because of my husband and I getting older, we're looking at things in a more adult lens as far as buying stuff is concerned. When we would go to previous conventions, we would buy a lot of stuff just because we wanted it and for collector sense, and just because of the fact that we were finally in a place that had a lot of anime stuff at that we could buy. But now that we live in our own apartment and we have a little bit more limited space per se, we are very selective on what we choose to buy. So when we look at something that we see at a convention, our thought process is, do we need this? Do we want this? And if we want this, where are we going to put it? Which kind of helps us, honestly, in like buying things we don't need, or buying things that we realize once we get home, we have nowhere to put. I also will say that now there's a lot more things that are made in Artist Alley that I can't justify getting at that point. So like, for example, pins and keychains, I think they're great and they are wonderful to look at. But my problem is I don't have anywhere to put them, and I don't have a place. Basically, I don't have anywhere to put them. And when it comes to keychains, I only have so many pairs of keys to put a keychain on. So I don't really end up buying them. And I just feel like it's a little bit harder now when it comes to buying stuff. And again, that's just me. But it just kind of shows that my husband and I are getting older, unfortunately. But it just kind of showed for us that we're very much more selective on what we're choosing to buy now compared to earlier years where we were just buying stuff because we wanted it. So when it comes to things I bought this year at Fanime, I did buy stuff. I bought some press-on nails which weren't anime related, but they were just super, super cute. I'm wearing them now. If you know me, I'm a BTS fan, and these ones are like BTS related ones. I bought like 4 pairs. Sorry if the camera didn't focus on my nails, but I bought like 4 pairs of those, and I love them. I use them. And then I also bought some like temporary tattoos that you like literally press on, and I have them here. I don't think you'll see them, but they're here. And that's pretty much it. But I didn't buy anything like truly anime related or even BTS related while I was there, because I was truly trying to think of like what it is that I really want to buy and do I have any room for it. But those are like the main issues and gripes that I have. Now, I know last year I did have a gripe about security at the convention, whereas last year it was like very lax security. You had a badge and that was it, and they didn't really check anything. This year they definitely did a little bit better. Not to a standard that was super comfortable for me sometimes, but it was there, so they tried. So last year, while they didn't have any metal detectors and they didn't have anybody like checking bags, this year they did. I wouldn't say it's Disney level of checking bags, but they had them there. So I wear a backpack that is just my everyday bag that I take with me. And going to the convention, if the alarm went off, security did check your bag, but they literally had you just open it and then peeked inside and then you closed it. I know at Disney they will have you open it and look through all your stuff very thoroughly to make sure nothing is in there hiding, but here they didn't exactly do that. And while it was a step in the right direction, I still think it could be a little bit better. I honestly don't mind waiting in line for bag checking at a convention if it's in the realm of keeping me and others safe, rather than letting people just go through with bags and they're not thoroughly checked. Just because, you know, here in the US, a lot of things have happened, which makes a lot of us on edge a lot when we're in a public setting. And I would rather be safe than sorry, to be honest with you. And it was also kind of hard to know when you were caught by the metal detector, because so many people are going through, not at once, like you're going through one at a time, but they're like pointing out people of when to check their bag. And there were times where like I had my bag, I went through, it might have gone off and they didn't check, and there's moments where it definitely went off and they did check. But I also never changed anything out of my bag to where it shouldn't go off. Like, I know, for example, my glasses case that I have in my backpack will make metal detectors go off because there's metal in it, and it will cause me to have my bag checked. It happened several times when we were in Disney World. I never took that glasses case out of my bag the entire time, and they probably checked my bag a total of 2 times of when we were there. Yeah. Now, as far as everything else is concerned, the convention was great. We had a good time. We definitely got our money's worth. We may not have gotten our money's worth from the convention because we literally every day would go to the convention, go to the dealer's hall, walk around a little bit, go back to our hotel room. That's literally it. That's all that we would do most of the time because there wasn't much else for us to do. There wasn't much else that we were interested in. We barely even went into the gaming room, which last year we spent a lot of time in. And that was pretty much it. Overall, I think it's a great convention. I definitely recommend this as a convention for several people to go to because it is a lot of fun. It's one of the few conventions that I've gone to that literally goes on all night and always has something for you to do, depending on what you're interested in. But I do not, as I've gotten older, I do not think I don't think it's worth going for all 4 days, especially if you're local. I would say maybe go for 1 or 2 days and then come back home. So that's kind of probably what we plan to do next year. But yeah, overall, that's my thoughts about Fanime 2024. I had a lot of fun overall. I did buy stuff. I enjoyed being in the atmosphere. I enjoyed being around other fans because that's always a lot of fun. And I enjoyed being able to meet up with friends, even though if they weren't at the convention, like just meeting up with them because of the area that we were in and getting able to go to dinner with them. And yeah, overall, go to Fanime if you're able to. If you're not able to, it's okay. But I do recommend going at least once. It is worth it for the amount of time that you're there for. You're going to get out of the convention what you're looking for. For this year, my husband and I didn't get a lot out of it just because there wasn't a lot there for us that we were interested in doing. But this isn't to say that other people won't have a different experience. So yeah, definitely check it out for yourself. That is a video that I have. My nose keeps running. Also, of course, like always, comment down below your thoughts. I will have a new video out next week. Hopefully it is a review or a discussion. I have quite a few ideas. As well as this video, thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, like I always tell you guys, stay positive, stay nerdy, and stay healthy. And of course, please stay safe. All right, you guys. Bye.